Hi guys, I recently did a 3-day fast, so I went 3 days without food, and when I tell people that, I typically get met with one of two reactions. People either say, "Oh cool, I've heard about that, I've wanted to do that for a while, how did you get on?" Or they say, "Oh my god, I can't believe you did that, why did you do that, and how did you do that?" And today's video is going to be answering both of those camps. Hopefully I'll be able to give you some information about what it felt like for me as an individual, but then also what the evidence base is in terms of the benefits. So I'm going to split it into the benefits, how it felt for me, what makes it easier, what makes it harder, and then how to come out of a fast and what you need to think about, and also what you need to do to prepare for your fast. So let's quickly get into the benefits. Over the years, I've been following many people online. Recently, there's a great doctor called Dr. David Sinclair who researches longevity. He's a big advocate of fasting and time-restricted eating. An expert in the field is Dr. Fung. He's co-written this book, The Longevity Solution, and a more easy-to-read complete guides to fasting. So I recommend those books. But podcasts I listen to would be The Drive by Dr. Peter Attia, and it comes up in lots of other places as well. And what seems to be coming out of the research is that there are both short-term benefits to fasting and long-term. So with the long-term, it's been shown time and time again that if you do this on a regular basis, either shorter fasts like 16 or 20, 24-hour fasts, or longer ones like 3 days or even up to 7 days, it's been shown that if you do that regularly through your life, you're likely to live a longer life. It increases your chances of living to a nice old age, and it also reduces your risk of getting chronic disease later in life. One of the reasons for this, and this goes into the shorter term benefits that you'll actually notice once you've been doing fasting for a while, is that one of the reasons is fasting kickstarts a process known as autophagy. And if you break that word down, it says autophagy. So auto means yourself and phagy means eat. So you effectively just eat yourself, and your immune system does this in a very clever way. What it does is it floats around the body looking for damaged and dying cells. So your immune system will use those older cells for fuel, and it will break them down. And then when you start eating again and replenish your calories and replenish your cells, you'll be building nice new ones. So this could be nicknamed the detox process. Another thing that happens in the short term is that you get a reduction in systemic inflammation. So what I've felt during my fasts, and this has been reported by many people, is that any little low-level aches and pains just disappear. And after about 2 days of fasting on this 3-day fast I did, suddenly my back got really clean, my joints and my hands felt really clean. A weird thing happened to me. I was sitting in the garden and suddenly my sinuses felt really clean and my ears popped, and I realized my hearing was better. I didn't even realize it had got worse until it was better, but I could really hear more around me. I could hear the birds, I could just hear distant sounds a bit better. And I just didn't even know that I had this low-level inflammation just throughout my ear, nose, throat, and that just disappeared. So the lower systemic inflammation is good for reducing chronic disease later in life, but you'll actually notice it as it happens. You'll feel better and cleaner in your body. Other benefits are that it gives your gut time to rest, and this will sound a bit weird, but one of my friends asked me, when you stop eating, do you stop pooing? And I said, no, it's actually kind of the opposite. And just having that rest from food gives your gut time to recover and cleanse, and it definitely makes you feel cleaner and lighter through the tummy as well. The final benefit that I notice is one of mental resilience. So doing a fast like this is actually hard, and it's certainly not easy. There are times during it where you really want food, you just can't stop thinking about food. You might have feelings of discomfort, of quite acute hunger. muzzy head, and everything in your mind is telling you just to go and eat, and it's just helpful to overcome that, and it makes you feel more resilient. So the Stoics would call this voluntary hardship. It's where you choose to deliberately make life difficult, and then by having done that many times and having chosen to go through discomfort, when life throws you a curveball, you know you can cope. When life throws you hardship, you've already been through it. So voluntary hardship and the discomfort that comes with a 3-day fast is actually good for your resilience. To prepare for your fast, I would recommend having a few days where you're getting ready for it. And what I've found is that having a few days where I lower carbohydrates is helpful. If I have more carbohydrates, the hunger pangs just seem to be much worse. One of the things that you're trying to achieve with your fast is to deplete all of your glycogen stores in your body. And once they're all depleted, that's when you kick into the autophagy process. So if you eat fewer carbohydrates, you'll have fewer glycogen stores and then therefore get to that autophagy quicker. So you actually start to eat yourself quicker, and then that's where you overcome the hunger as well. Towards the end of your fast, you actually don't feel hungry, weirdly. So having fewer carbohydrates in the run up to the fast helps. The other thing I do is try to have a few days of high nutrient density. So when it comes to nutrient density, all I really think about are colours on the plate. So am I getting my vegetables and fruits with reds, greens, blues and blueberries, orange from the sweet potatoes and butternut squash and things. Am I having high quality meat without having too much? And obviously keeping the processed foods to a minimum, if not nothing at all. So freshly cooked, colourful, nutrient dense foods. And then the last thing is no alcohol for a few days leading up to a fast. Again, all these things, I think they make the fast more effective, but they also make it more comfortable. If you've had high carbs, any sugars or any alcohol, you're going to struggle for that first day, and 2 days it will be tougher. But otherwise, when it comes to starting the fast, all you do is have a meal and that's it. Don't overeat. Don't think that you're banking food. It's really the opposite actually. You want to go into it with clean diet, clean eating, and if anything, slightly lower calories than normal. So you're ready to deplete and empty your body of food and calories. Now on to the things that make it easier and make it tougher. And here I really am speaking from personal experience. Some of what I'm about to say is mirrored in other people that I've read online though. I've done 4 3-day fasts now, and I've done them all in different ways slightly, and they've all had their own nature. The first one is always going to be your toughest, I think, partly because it's just the unknown. You don't know that you can go 3 days without food, and you have questions like, am I going to feel faint? Am I going to feel weak? And what I noticed on my first one is that I was questioning every feeling that I had. Whereas once I got to the end of the 3 days and I survived and I realized that actually I felt amazing for it, all the future fasts become that little bit easier, because you know that firstly you'll get through it, and secondly you know that there's some positive to be gained from doing it. I did the first 3 fasts where I worked during the fast. So I had dinner on Sunday night, and then my next meal was dinner on the Wednesday. So I was busy from Monday to Wednesday. At first I thought that was helpful because my mind was active and my mind was being taken away from the feelings of discomfort and hunger. But this last fast I did it during lockdown, so I wasn't working and I was much more restful. And I can now look back on the first 3 fasts and realize that even though my mind was active and I wasn't thinking about the discomfort as much, there was also this tension that I didn't know, I couldn't label at the time, but now I can retrospectively label it. And I realized that there was this tension between my body wanting to rest, but my conscious mind wanting to distract itself and be busy. So on this one, the most recent fast, I did rest much more. I didn't have any work to do. I had to look after my kids, but I tried to be not too physical with that. And I looked after the kids. But that was easy. In the afternoon on day 2, my wife took the kids out for a couple of hours and I had this 2-hour nap in the afternoon, and it honestly felt like the most healing nap I've had for years. That rest was super helpful. I was very slow. I didn't put any pressure on myself to be mentally or physically active over the 3 days. And although that gives you more time to pay attention and notice the feelings of discomfort, you can do that. You can be mindful around the feelings of discomfort, but I also noticed the restfulness to be incredibly healing. So now my advice, whereas I used to say it's good to be busy, my advice now is it's good to rest and then just be mindful of the discomfort that comes and the feelings of hunger that come. You'll get over it. It's actually quite interesting to pay attention to that. But I wouldn't, from my future fasts, I'm going to make sure I'm more restful. This fast was interesting because while we were at home during lockdown, my wife was homeschooling my daughter and I was in charge of cooking all the meals. So it was hard, but interesting. I'm glad I did it, but it definitely made it tougher at times. And you also have to be really mindful if you're cooking not to lick your finger or anything. There was one time where I just made some toast and honey on toast for my little girl, and I went to lick my finger and got my hand about an inch away from my mouth, and my saliva was going, my tummy was going, my whole body was expecting honey. And then I was like, oh, I can't do that right now. So I had to catch myself just in time. And for a couple of minutes afterwards, my tummy was going, and it was quite hard. But that adds to the resilience. So if you want to test yourself mentally, it's fun to cook other people's food during a fast, but it does make it harder. So if possible, avoid cooking food if you want to make it a bit easier for yourself. But it wasn't the end of the world. And the last thing that makes it a little bit easier is just to stay warm. After about, even on day 1 actually, after the lunch, after you've skipped that second meal, so as you go into the afternoon of day 1, I started to get cold, and then that gets worse for me as the days go on. So I was wearing a beanie and had an extra layer on my upper body just to stay warm, and I felt that just made me feel cozy and added to the restfulness of the fast. Coming out of the fast, my first meal in quotes, is for me it's a mug of bone broth. There are different ways of doing this. Some people juice to come out of a fast, but the thing that made the most sense to me was to have a mug of bone broth. We do this anyway as a family. Each week we have a roast chicken and then we simmer the carcass for 24 hours. But we throw in some vegetables and some cider vinegar and some seasoning. But what I did to break the fast was just heat up a mug of that gently, and had a mug of bone broth. And then about half an hour later, I had some scrambled eggs, still a bit runny, sprinkled some flax seeds and crushed some walnuts, and did some lightly cooked spinach and butter. And that was all I had for my first actual physical meal. I can tell you, after 3 days of no food, having some flavour and having something to bite is just the most incredible feeling. So make sure you really enjoy that process. Don't have the telly on, don't be checking your phone. Just notice how incredible it is to have food after 3 days of no food. And really feel what it's doing to your body, because you can feel it. You can feel the energy seeping back into you. You can feel your body using it. And that's just an interesting thing. We take our food for granted in the developed world, and we can get food whenever we want it. So to have gone without it and to bring it back is quite a wonderful feeling, and it should be noticed. But that was my experience. It's something that I intend to do a couple of times a year. I had actually been a bit slack this time and left it over a year since my last one, but the benefits of this really are noticeable. This was a couple of weeks ago now that I did my 3-day fast, and I'm still feeling the lightness and looseness in my joints. My gut feels cleaner, my energy is better. So I think I'm going to program this in twice a year. Some people say you can do a 3-day fast up to 4 times a year. I also do the time restricted eating of 16 or 20 hour fasts quite regularly. So I'll do a 16-hour fast 4 or 5 days a week. And it's just something that I call an investment in my health. I really try to do things at this age that will help me when I'm 80 and 90 and hopefully beyond. And this is just one of those investments. So this is my story. I really do encourage you to look at other sources before making the decision to do a 3-day fast. But at the same time, if you're interested to give it a go, it's worth a try. You can always stop if things feel really weird. You can just eat. It's that simple. But hopefully this has helped give you an idea, or at least a story as to how it felt for me, even though the benefits are widely documented to be helpful for many people. So I hope that helped, and if you have any questions, please comment below.